What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael and welcome to FudgeMuppet. Today we're embarking on an adventure across the open seas, swinging from province to province to uncover the pirates of Tamriel. We've made a pirate build for Skyrim before, and actually we even made one for Fallout 4, and there's no denying that acting like a pirate in games can be seriously fun. I'm fairly certain that even Assassin's Creed Black Flag is my favorite game from that entire series, but back to Elder Scrolls. What pirates are there that exist or have existed throughout history? Who are they and what did they do? Well, in this video, I plan to cover all of that. In fact, I'll even be covering pirates from continents outside of Tamriel itself. Before we swallow a bottle of rum to kick things off, I thought it would be useful to simply point out what a pirate really is. Most of the time, they're more or less just a bandit or marauder who simply operates out at sea instead of on land, using naval ships to travel and plunder. But with all of that said, it's time to walk the plank and drop into the seas around Blackmarsh. Quite a scary place to be if you ask me. So what do we know of pirates from Blackmarsh? Scaly Argonians who want a life of violence and riches, leaving their swamps behind, at least temporarily, and sailing out in search of targets to plunder. Well, there's actually some really cool stuff involving Blackmarsh, and if you watched my video called Are Argonians Weak, where I cover the feats of Argonians throughout history, you might remember a pirate by the name of Red Brammen. Some sentences in the Pocket Guide to the Empire might indicate that Brammen was a man and not an Argonian, but Red Brammen was officially depicted as an Argonian with his own card in the Elder Scrolls Legends, and it looks phenomenal. Either way, the story of Red Brammen is the same. So back in the First Era, one infamous pirate had no fears going in and out of Blackmarsh to get his hands dirty. Red Brammen, supposedly an Argonian pirate, was a massive problem for the Elysian Empire and operated heavily around the area of Topple Bay, raiding the coasts and retreating back to Blackmarsh to hide. Whether this was his homeland or not, it was the ultimate hideout, and his ship could travel through a secret river entrance that was disguised by mangrove thickets. This Blackmarsh pirate was causing so much trouble with his constant raiding that he actually attracted the attention of Empress Hestra herself. He was no ordinary pest. She commanded the Imperial Navy to bring back his head, and they did, but that was not until they undertook many intrusions into Blackmarsh, pushing further and further, fighting off more and more resistance from Argonians the further they went. Even though they eventually succeeded, the Empire's use of the pirate routes in Blackmarsh frustrated the native Argonians, who simply saw them as invaders, and overall it contributed to making them resentful towards the races of men. However, once the pirate threat was destroyed, the First Empire was relatively happy to leave. If Red Brammen is in fact an Argonian, like the Legends card depicts, then it is even more impressive that he had the courage to leave his homeland, as it was even less common for Argonians to leave Blackmarsh back in the First Era. Another pirate from Blackmarsh can be found living in the Second Era, during the events of Elder Scrolls Online. Without a doubt an Argonian, she goes by the cliche name of Captain One-Eye, and she basically runs Alton Coromont. Alton Coromont is located in the region of Shadowfen in Blackmarsh, and it's filled with all kinds of pirates, thieves, and merchants. It's a significant trade hub with river access, and as you'd expect, the town isn't the friendliest place. Captain One-Eye wants to get rid of a Dominion spy, a Khajiit actually, who is running supply lines in her town. Later on, you can even find her searching for ancient treasure in Cold Harbor, so there's no doubt Captain One-Eye is very ambitious. There's even the option to give her the Crown of Bones, which turns her into a skeleton, though she remains friendly. But enough of Argonians, let's hop across the continent to a place which is famously known to have its fair share of pirates, Hammerfell. There have been plenty of cases of pirates in Hammerfell, and Cyrus, the main character of the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, even aspired to be a pirate in his younger years. He frequently talked and later went on missions with a half-Nord who was a pirate, and at this time, Cyrus was working as a mercenary. After hearing that his sister went missing, he went looking for her, and again he came across more pirates, although these were hostile towards him. It was on his way to the island of Stros Mackay when Cyrus was confronted by two pirates from the Restless League, a group who were dedicated to overthrowing the Redguard monarchy during the interregnum. So all of this was going down late in the Second Era. For those who didn't know, the pirates were trying to claim his ship, so Cyrus defeated them. Later, however, Cyrus went on to negotiate with them to gather information. Here he was told that the Restless League were fighting against the Imperial rule on the island, and Izara, his sister, had become a member of the faction. In the end, Cyrus would find his sister and rally these pirates, leading an attack on the palace and killing the provisional governor of Stros M'Kai. From here, the rebels could negotiate a peace treaty favorable to Hammerfell, though the province as a whole would still be part of the Third Empire. So yes, there's plenty of pirate-related activity to talk about when it comes to Hammerfell. Cyrus still lives on in the form of old sea shanties, but his story is not the only one featuring Redguard pirates. We also see Redguard pirates from Hammerfell in the Elder Scrolls Online. We can visit Stros M'Kai in-game, and as it tends to be, it's a haven for piracy. In fact, many pirates of the Abyssinian Sea, that is the sea west of Cyrodiil, used it as their home base port. One pirate faction we can see here are the Sea Drakes. This pirate faction is responsible for looting vessels on Stros M'Kai, and they're named after a monstrous creature supposedly hunted by Argonians near the waters of Blackmarsh. Captain Helene is the leader of the Sea Drakes, and she ends up being poisoned by a Breton pirate appropriately named Crafty Larissa. Captain Helene and the Sea Drakes had captured Crafty Larissa's crew aboard the Maiden, Larissa's ship. After Helene is poisoned during the related quest, you can choose whether or not you want to give her the antidote. Then there's the Redguard pirate, also a woman named Colleen. She actually saves you from drowning if you sided with the Daggerfall Covenant. She's involved in quite a few quests, so I can't outline all of them, but one cool thing to note is that this Redguard actually ends up quitting her life as a pirate and turning into a privateer for the Covenant, serving King Faharajard. For those who don't know, Faharajard is the king of Sentinel and is responsible for the Redguards joining the Daggerfall Covenant. So we've heard of Argonian pirates, and we know there's plenty of pirates in Hammerfell, but what if we head over the border of this province into High Rock? What pirates do we find here? Well, if we actually go to the region on the border of the two provinces named Bankarai, we can stumble across a location named Blackheart Haven. Bankarai is home to Bankarai Pass, the well-known land feature which has served as High Rock's defense against raiders from Hammerfell. But back to Blackheart Haven. This is a group dungeon in Elder Scrolls Online, which involves you fighting through hordes of enemies, and as you'd expect, it's pirate themed. There's plenty of pirate bosses to kill, and the final one is Captain Blackheart himself, a powerful and intimidating undead pirate. He can spawn other skeletons to fight you, and he can even turn one of the players into a skeleton form. He tends to pick the tank, which can make things really frustrating. If you kill this undead pirate, he can drop a unique sword with a life drain enchantment called Skullmaker. Anyways, that's one example from High Rock of a pirate, but is there anything else? Well, in Volume 2 of Cicero's journal, found in Skyrim, we can read that Wayrest, a major kingdom of High Rock, was besieged by corsairs, or pirates really, 13 years before the events of Elder Scrolls V. This is pretty crazy, as you'd think that Wayrest would be able to fend off pirates, but it is said that the king of Wayrest stupidly let this happen, leaving the ports open for anyone to enter. Some say he let the invasion happen because he knew of a conspiracy to kill him. He wanted the corsairs to kill his enemies during their process of violently sacking everything. Either way, the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary in Wayrest was eventually found, and the members inside were slaughtered. There were no known survivors. Now, while we're on the topic of pirates successfully invading civilized territory, let's talk about Valenwood and the Jackdaw Pirates. This is a pirate faction found in Elder Scrolls Online, and they've actually taken over Haven, an entire city in the southeast of Grotwood in Valenwood. The idea of Wood Elf pirates sounds really awesome, especially if they had a way to build their ships while still adhering to the Green Pact. More on this in the Cyrodiil section. Unfortunately, however, the significant members of this gang of pirates you find in Valenwood consist mainly of Nords and Argonians. There's also a Dunmer mage helping them, so really, if anything, the important people in the Jackdaw Pirates consist of the three races making up the Ebonheart Pact. We've got a Nord named Warleader Njold, there's an Argonian dual-wielding melee weapons named Giate, and another Argonian who is a beast handler named Mehey Ma. Then there's the Dunmer I mentioned, a female mage named Artificer Hlana, and finally we have the leader, a Nord knight named Gyama Ravenhair. She actually plans to raise the bodies of those who died during the invasion in order to create an undead army. Crazy stuff if you ask me, and even if you help save the day, we know Valenwood would have problems from the Cameron usurper later in the Third Era, who successfully employed the undead in his army to cause destruction, but that tends to cover it for pirates and Valenwood. But like I said, a little bit more in the Cyrodiil section. Well, how about Skyrim? We can't make an Elder Scrolls Pirates video and not talk about Skyrim, because the Land of the Nords is simply sensational when it comes to pirate lore. First up, I want to talk about a prime example from the Dragonborn DLC, the infamous pirate king Haknir Deathbrand. We encounter the spirit of Haknir deep within Gildenhall Barrow at the end of the Deathbrand quest. In the process of doing his quest and eventually defeating him, we'll have been able to collect a full set of the enchanted Deathbrand armor, which looks like light Starim armor, and you also get 2 enchanted scimitars, Blood Scythe and Soul Render. This is the armor and weaponry used by Haknir when he was a fearsome pirate ruler, dominating the northern seas centuries in the past. Not only is this armor spectacular in modern day Skyrim, but imagine seeing a pirate wearing it while they attack you. It's just next level stuff. This pirate king may have been successful and looked really cool, but he certainly didn't keep his cool. Haknir Deathbrand was known to be very angry and violent, unleashing rage in fits of madness which terrified those around him. Legend has it that he even loved torture and murder. It brought him great pleasure. In addition to this, it was claimed he lived for an abnormal amount of years, and there were rumors he had special powers which allowed him to do so. Some say he made a pact with Mehrunes Dagon, and that this pact was sealed with the infamous scar laying across his face. This scar was said to be called the Death Brand. Others believe he fed on the blood and souls he killed to extend his lifespan. Now, before his death, he declared to his crew that no one could have his treasure unless they could best him in combat, and he had his quartermaster go to Solstheim to bury his armor in 4 separate coastline locations. He then went with his helmsman to Gildenhall Barrow, asking to be buried there with his treasure. Haknir is definitely an awesome pirate in the Elder Scrolls lore, but are there any other interesting ones that feature in Skyrim? Perhaps you've heard of Velek Sane, also known as the Pirate King of the Abyssinian, which is that sea found off the west coast of Cyrodiil. Velek Sane is actually a Dremora pirate. It is said that his ship's presence caused madness, and he and his crew were merciless and cruel. People often wonder, why would a Dremora become a pirate? What useful loot would they have? I believe the answer to this question comes back to the whole part about being cruel. This Dremora was probably a pirate for enjoyment. It would be a great way to bring pain and suffering to mortals. That said, he did bury treasure. Perhaps he knew it could be a good bargaining tool with mortals in the future who could maybe help him. We encounter this pirate in the Midden, a dungeon underneath the College of Winterhold. He tells us that a spell has bound him to Mundus and wants the player to release him. He promises us wealth, treasure from an Imperial galleon which he has stashed away. You can just kill him if you want, or you can help him and get a map to his treasure. Other pirates that come to mind when I think of Skyrim are the Bloodhawkers. These were the bandit pirates you had to go take out in the quest Rise in the East. The East Empire Trading Company was having trouble with pirates around Windhelm, and you helped them find the pirates' hideout, Japheth's Folly. It was thought that these pirates, called the Bloodhawkers, had an army of battle mages helping them. Turns out it was just one really powerful battle mage named Haldan. This powerful Redguard once sent a scouting group to go to lots of hidden islands looking for places to make outposts and hide treasure. One of his groups found an island inhabited by Hawkers, and it seemed like a good location to set up an outpost. Funnily, the Hawkers ended up killing all but one survivor who returned to tell the story. This is how the group got their name, the Bloodhawkers. You end up helping the East Empire Company assault their island and take out their mage in the process. It's one of the best side quests in the entire game. So as you can see, there's a lot of piracy when it comes to Skyrim. But wait, there's more. Do you remember the Blackblood Marauders? It's a name which I think is a lot more intimidating than the Bloodhawkers. The Blackblood Marauders were the group of pirates helping an Argonian by the name of Jari Ra. This Argonian is the one that approaches you in solitude and wants your help in causing a shipwreck, which he plans to loot with his gang. He says that the sailors on board won't be harmed and you can get a fair share of the loot. Being an evil bastard, you agree, but evil bastards get what they deserve. In theory, I guess. When you go to the shipwreck, you will notice the original operators of the ship have all been murdered. Jari Ra's sister, an Argonian named Dija, is in the hull of the ship, and there's plenty of Blackblood Marauders around. When you meet her, she reveals your reward, a quick death. After defeating her and the rest of the pirates, you pick up a note on her corpse which tells you where Jari Ra is. He's hiding in Broken Ore Grotto, one of the most aesthetic locations in the entire game. You go here and kill him and other pirates, getting a key from the Argonian criminal which opens a big loot chest. Turns out the Blackblood Marauders were a fleet of pirates who actually got trapped inside the grotto with their ships due to a cave-in. This forced them to become marauders, operating at least temporarily from land. As for other pirates encountered in Elder Scrolls V, there's standard pirate enemies on Solstheim. They're pretty much identical to bandits and reavers. There's the enemy simply called pirates, then there's the pirate mage and the pirate captain. In the history of the Nords, there's also the classic raiding parties. These were the groups of sea raiders who were involved in attacking other provinces such as Morrowind back in the First Era. You can count them as pirates if you want, I'll leave it up to you. Now, taking a look at Morrowind, there don't appear to be any notable pirates in and around the main areas. All we really hear of the Dark Elves and piracy are those who became pirates in other provinces or went to other locations. I did mention there were pirates found on Solstheim in the Dragonborn DLC, and most happened to be Dunmer. These pirates were also looking for the treasure of Hacknir Deathbrand, by the way. Now, we also visited Solstheim in the Blood Moon DLC in Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, and here there were actually undead skeleton pirates in Himmelhost Barrow. There was also a skeleton pirate captain who wielded a unique cutlass, or saber, called Sea Splitter. Its enchantment allowed you to demoralize creatures, but honestly, I think a pirate's weapon would be better off scaring humans, but I guess you get what you get. Other Dunmer pirates that I can tell you about are actually ghosts you encounter in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. They're found within Black Rock Caverns, which is a cave northwest of the city of Coral. There's some standard Black Rock pirates and the Black Rock captain. All are dark elves, all have steel cutlasses, all are ghosts. Why they're haunting these caverns is anyone's guess. Though, now we've moved on to Cyrodiil and we're talking about my favorite Elder Scrolls game, Oblivion, aren't we? It would be a great topic to move on to as we discuss the Pirates of Tamriel. However, I think I'm going to throw a curveball and give mention to Akavir. Akavir, you say? That's a whole other continent to the east of Tamriel. Indeed it is. But the inhabitants of Akavir first entered into Tamrielic history in the form of pirates, operating around the Iliac Bay area. Fascinatingly, it is said that the ships were manned by beast folk pirates who had rat-like features and others who looked canine. This suggests that there may be undiscovered Akaviri races and cultures, or ones that have gone extinct. These pirating ships appeared as early as the 800th year of the First Era, and their raiding and pillaging was quite the annoyance. However, they weren't just after loot. It is believed that they were scouting ahead for the coming Akaviri invasion of Tamriel. Now, whether you want to call the invaders pirates or not is up to you, as it's fair to point out that just because a group invades via the sea, it doesn't necessarily mean they're pirates. However, in the year before the invasion, which I'll get into soon, legitimate piracy from the Akaviri picked up around Tamriel drastically. One example was in Wayrest, where citizens were forced to take refuge behind city walls in the 2702nd year of the First Era, as a massive Akaviri raiding party arrived. The year after this, the main invasion of Tamriel by the Akaviri took place, and it was performed almost entirely by the Saisi, a race of vampiric serpent folk. The forces of Tamriel fought as hard as they could to fend off the invaders, and to begin with, they were getting smashed. Eventually, however, the armies of Tamriel started to do better and worked together, and Riemann Cyrodiil delivered the final blow, defeating the Akaviri threat. When he routed them at the Battle of Pale Pass, they recognized him as Dragonborn, and this caused them to swear unceasing loyalty to him. The Akaviri would invade again during the Second Era, arriving with a fleet of ships and anchoring for a whole month before beginning their attack on Windhelm. There's not a whole lot involving pirates to talk about with the second invasion, but it's cool to know that these invaders this time were primarily the Kamal, a race of snow demons from Akavir. They look like giants made of snow and are said to have huge crystals of ice protruding from their backs. But with all of that covered, let's all take our sabers out and thrust them deep into the waters of Cyrodiil. We'll start off by talking about pirates explored in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. A most memorable group can be found docked in the Imperial Waterfront District, standing outside their pirate ship known as the Marie Elena. There's some generic pirates, and then the classic female Dark Elf, First Mate Malvolus. She warns you that if you go near or on the ship, she will attack you, and if you're as curious as I am, then you'll quickly realize she wasn't kidding. All the pirates turn on you and whip out their cutlasses. It's game on, but luckily for you, the Imperial Watch aren't too fond of these pirates. The guards will come to your defense, killing the pirates quite easily. It's pretty funny, to be honest, and a solid strategy to utilize if you want them to stop singing their songs all the time. But that's not where the fun with this pirate ship ends. No, this ship is actually involved in one of the earliest Dark Brotherhood quests. You're sent to assassinate the captain, Gaston to Sword, and it's implied that he's quite wealthy and has been avoiding justice for quite some time. He's a Breton who sailed from High Rock to Cyrodiil in search of treasure, but you'll put an end to him if you complete the quest called a Watery Grave. The awesome thing about this quest is that you can sneak aboard the ship in a crate, which they take inside with you inside the crate. You're on a lower level and can either fight or sneak past the crew members until you make your way to the captain's cabin where you can kill Gaston. Two pirates will come knocking at the door, giving you a small amount of time to decide if you want to escape out the back door and jump off the balcony into the sea below or just fight your way out. I think the escape option is actually a lot more fun and suitable. An additional example that comes to mind in the Imperial waterfront is the Blackwater Brigands. This bandit group actually takes over the ship known as the Bloated Float, which has actually been turned into an inn, and sails it out to sea. This takeover happens while you're sleeping inside and you're left to take out the 4 members on board. They're looking for a treasure the inn owner said was hidden in the ship, but it turns out he just made that up to get more customers. Bad idea. These brigands have their own custom leather armor, and their leader, Celine, has an enchanted fine steel longsword which absorbs fatigue, capable of knocking you over if your fatigue levels get too low. Anyways, I'm not sure you could call these bandits pirates, but they certainly are criminals who were looking for treasure aboard a ship they hijacked and sailed out to sea. Still worth mentioning for sure. Another grey area for Cyrodiilic pirates would be Anvil. So there's this ship in Anvil known as the Serpent's Wake, which has a quest called the Ghost Ship of Anvil. Outside the ship you can meet a high elf mage who actually owns the ship. She wants you to recover her mother's crystal ball from deep in the ship. Originally she hired a crew to sail to the Somerset Isles and bring back the crystal ball. They succeeded, but then someone murdered them all when they got back, and now they're haunting the ship. Whether these crew members should be considered pirates or sailors is hard to say. We don't really know the nature of all of their work. They were murdered by a certain Dark Brotherhood member for laughing at him, though I don't want to spoil any more than that. Anyways, for dealing with this quest, you get a unique weapon perfect for a pirate, Red Wave. This is a unique enchanted cutlass that used to belong to the ship's captain. It drains the life of your enemies, and it leads me to speculate, why would an ordinary sailing captain need an enchanted cutlass? Perhaps for protection, but the drain life enchantment seems a bit more intense. Perhaps they really did operate as pirates. Who knows? As an interesting Easter egg, there's also an unmarked ship docked outside of Solitude in Skyrim called the Red Wave. I guess that's a pirate from Skyrim I forgot to talk about, Safia. She's the pirate captain of the Red Wave in Skyrim, and you're sent to end her for the last of Nazir's contracts in the Dark Brotherhood. But back to Cyrodiil. In Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, Bethesda created a downloadable add-on known as the Thieves Den. This gives you the perfect hideout for any stealth character, especially for thieves and especially for pirates. It's more or less a new house at a secluded pirate hideout, Dunbarrow Cove. But before you get this place pumping, there's a quest to complete. When you get the add-on, you will receive a message in-game saying this: Centuries ago, a great battle took place in Anvil Bay. In the battle, the legendary pirate Torridon ap Dougal, the captain of the infamous Black Flag, was defeated by the first Count of Anvil. Rumors have been circulating of a hidden underground cavern beneath Castle Anvil. If the rumors are to be believed, then the final resting place of Captain Dougal and his ship have been uncovered. I should investigate these rumors as soon as possible. So you head to the foundation of Castle Anvil and discover the door to a secret cave, Smuggler's Cave. Going in here, you'll be able to find Dunbarrow Cove, as well as the Red Saber pirates that have since become skeletons, forever cursed and angry over their misfortune. There's 7 of these Red Saber skeletons, including the skeleton of Captain Dougal, located in the captain's quarters. Dougal was a pirate who operated in the Gold Coast until he was finally defeated by an ancestor of Corvus Umbranox, known as Fassel. It was in the 266th year of the Third Era when Umbranox's mages created a rockfall, trapping him underground with his ship. In his quarters, you'll be able to find 4 volumes of his journal, which explains his backstory. The summary is that he was sold off by his own parents at the age of 9, working with a captain who smuggled skooma from Daggerfall to Vivec. He was taught how to avoid the Imperial Navy, but eventually was left wandering Hammerfell after his captain was caught and hanged. He ended up being hired under the command of another captain, a drunkard who crashed the ship and drank himself to death from the embarrassment. He then signed on yet again under another captain, and shortly after, the Cameron usurper started causing mayhem, and then the Imperial Navy took possession of all the pirate ships in the port to go fight against the Bosma menace. The captain was going to hand over the ship, but Dougal and the rest of the crew slit his throat and escaped with it. Dougal quickly became captain of the Black Flag, a ship that was said to be able to outrun any vessel, and he and his crew went up and down the Gold Coast, raiding ships from High Rock who were delivering supplies for the war. His recruits grew in numbers immensely, and he called his fleet the Red Saber. The Empire had a huge bounty on his head, and eventually, as I mentioned, he was taken out by Umbranox. Dougal had headed into Anvil Bay trying to capture some of Umbranox's forces, but this was a trap, and the mages caused a cliff wall to fall down, effectively destroying Dougal's faction. He did not die from this though, he was simply trapped with some of his crew in a newly formed cavern. One by one, they all died of sickness. After you defeat the undead pirates, you get an update telling you to see Dahlia Rackham, who is located on the Clarabella, a ship in Anvil's harbour. There are pirates aboard, part of an illegal sheep smuggling ring. Anyways, you can buy upgrades for Dunbarrow Cove from Dahlia, including a fence to sell stolen goods to, a supplier to buy rare goods from, and a security expert who helps train you and your crew in the art of lockpicking. Other additions you can get to your crew include a Fletcher, who sells marksman supplies and training, and a Spy Master who teaches stealth and sells some armor and weapons. You can also buy an upgrade to the captain's quarters. As you buy more upgrades, new pirates will join your crew, and you can actually send them to pillage and plunder. You get a share of the loot they return with, of course. One last thing to mention about Dougal is involving Wood Elf pirates. This is what I promised to mention. In his journals, he states that he had every buccaneer from here to Valenwood flying under his flag. He said that they were the best cutthroats that a pirate captain could ever wish for, and that thinking of them all brings a tear to his eye. But apparently, even better than the men were the ships. And he goes on to say, and I quote, "Even had a few of them Bosma ships with the funny living sails in my fleet." It all sounds like extremely cool stuff. But as you can see, the stories of pirates involving Cyrodiil seem to never end, and there is in fact one more I'd like to tell, this time from Elder Scrolls Online. When I tell you of this pirate, maybe you'll also wonder, is Bethesda just lazy, or is it a neat callback to Elder Scrolls fans who have played the Thieves Den plot of Oblivion? So there's a pirate queen with a very similar name to the pirate we were just talking about. This imperial woman is known as Fortunata ap Dougal. She also led a fleet of pirates, although instead of being called the Red Saber, they were called the Red Sails. In the time of Elder Scrolls Online, she's Anvil's provincial governor. She seized control of Anvil in the year 577 of the Second Era and plotted to conquer the entire Gold Coast. You will remember that Torridon also terrorized the Gold Coast. Fortunata never got to accomplish this, however, as she was assassinated by the Dark Brotherhood in the year 583. The wine she drank during a toast was poisoned, and she fell off the balcony down a cliff to her death. Now, while she has a similar story to Torridon ap Dougal, it is never confirmed that she is his ancestor, but I like to think that they do come from the same bloodline. With this pirate queen dead, we're almost all out of pirates to talk about. There's still the province of Elsewhere and the Somerset Isles to go over, but there aren't really many pirates here. I guess you could look at the Sea Elves as pirates, as they constantly attacked and tried to raid the Somerset Isles throughout history. They used special snake magic to tame giant sea serpents found around their island of Pyandonia, and then used them as war beasts and mounts. So they rode on sea serpents while ravaging the coast of the Somerset Isles, but a full-on invasion was never successful, and the Maramar were dealt with by great force in the Third Era, never to be sighted again, though it's important to note that the Sea Elves wanted to conquer the High Elves, not merely plunder them for loot, riches, and fun. During the Second Era though, again in the time of Elder Scrolls Online, they love pirates. There was a temporary alliance between the Sea Elf folk and the Second Aldmeri Dominion. That said, the Dominion still allowed the kings of Colovia to destroy Sea Elf outposts that had been created along the mainland's west coast. So were there any true Sea Elf pirates? The answer is yes. There are Sea Elf pirates who feature in the Elder Scrolls Online, with a faction known as the Sea Vipers, and it's made up of Maramar who are seen to attack coastal areas in parts of the Somerset Isles, Valenwood and elsewhere, and even southern Hammerfell. The reason they're causing most of their trouble in Dominion territory is due to a group of Altmeri nationalists called the Veiled Heritance. This secret group wants to depose Queen Aeren and appoint their own leader, the Veiled Queen High Kinlady Esther. This is actually Aeren's sister-in-law and her brother's wife. So there's an alliance between the Veiled Heritance and the Sea Elf pirates, the Sea Vipers, because because the Veiled Heritance promised them lands if the Admiri Dominion was to be dismantled. One interesting thing to note is that during a quest called the Tempest Unleashed, these Sea Vipers want to perform a blood sacrifice ritual by using storm totems to generate and unleash a dangerous amount of power. The final group of pirates I think I'll discuss come from elsewhere. If you've been watching my Elder Scrolls lore videos for a while, you've probably heard me mention the Renridra Kryn. This is a criminal Khajiit organization who are very nationalistic. In the Third Era, they carried out terrorist attacks in County Leowyn over land ownership disputes, but I want to talk about the Second Era, in the events of Elder Scrolls Online. As you can come across the Renridra Mauer. This is the naval division of the Renridra Kryn, and they're also known as the Renridra Pirates. As I talked about in my video on criminal factions, the Renridra Mauer were hired by the Admiri Dominion to be privateers during the Alliance War. They raided the coast of Glenumbra, which is on the western peninsula of High Rock. Also around this time, they began to operate along the coasts of Blackmarsh and Morrowind. At times, they tried to enslave populations of Argonians, and they also helped supply the Dominion's failed invasion of Shadowfen, which is that northwest region of Blackmarsh we talked about in the Blackmarsh section. Now, as I also told you earlier in this video, there was a local pirate boss in Shadowfen called Captain One-Eye. Do you remember the Khajiit I mentioned that One-Eye wanted to get rid of when I was speaking of Alton Coromont? Well, this Khajiit is part of the Renridra Mauer and was more or less their leader. After she is slain, the Renridra Mauer actually ended up helping One-Eye, changing their allegiance out of necessity after their leader was killed. Finally, before this video ends, there are some Elder Scrolls Legends playing cards to mention. So besides Red Bramman, the Argonian pirate, we've got Aldora the Daring, who is a female Nord with a cutlass standing on what appears to be a pirate ship. There's also a support card simply called Corsair Ship, which has a picture of a pirate ship on it. The final card perhaps worthy of mention here is the Crown Quartermaster, a female Redguard with a scimitar. She looks very pirate-like with her apparel, although we don't know if she's a pirate for sure. I mean, the Crowns are considered a major political party, not a pirate faction, although the Restless League, which we talked about earlier, was a Crown organization. But now this video comes to an end. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Pirates of Tamriel. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments below, and subscribe for more unique Elder Scrolls content just like this. Social media links are in the description for those interested in talking to us, as is the link to our Patreon if you want to help support the channel. My name is Michael, thank you so much for watching the video the whole way through, and I look forward to nerding out with you again very soon.